Hello, everyone. Before we get started with today's podcast episode, let's go ahead and go over some housekeeping rules. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, be sure to hit the follow notification button so Spotify lets you know when I release a new episode. As well, leave me a comment on what you enjoy about the podcast and give me a 5-star rating. This is how you can support my podcast. And the disclaimer is I am not a licensed psychiatrist or therapist. My suggestions and my guests are based on general knowledge and life experiences. If you're considering making significant changes or dealing with personal issues, seek and talk to a licensed mental health professional. So let's go ahead and get into today's episode. Blessed Day Reflection by Abia listeners. My name is Abia Grant, and we are here to reflect on our life journey. We will be discussing topics related to self-awareness, self-improvement, and mental health. Also, the purpose of this safe space is for us to be free to discuss the ups and downs, celebrate the wins, and talk about ways to improve the lows. So welcome to this podcast, and I hope you gain something from this time we share together. Hello everyone, how you doing? It is your girl Abia Grant. Welcome back to another episode of Reflection by Abia. I hope that you guys are doing well and that you are having a blessed and glorious day. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I know I'm laughing as soon as I start this episode. Every week I say this, but I am so freaking happy today is Friday. I am so happy. I don't know what it is. I feel like this week just took forever. I feel like it should already be Saturday. And it's just this week has been so slow, which I don't know if, because we always talk about how life moves so fast. So I don't know if it's a good thing that, it's moving by slow or if it's a bad thing. I don't know. All I know is that I'm ready for the weekend to be here so that I can relax because your girl is over it. I am over it. But besides that, I am doing okay. I'm doing okay. I hope that you guys are doing well. I hope that everything on your end is going well and you just coming here and ready to hear what I'm going to talk about and, you're positive and all the rest of that stuff. Yeah, I just hope that that's the case. And if it's not, I always say, like I say in every episode, is that, things will get better. Remember that it won't, challenges or whatever you may be going through won't be like this forever. I know as we are transitioning into the May and now summer is upon us, people's vibes and things are starting to shift, so I say also in conjunction to that is get out more. Maybe that will help. It's starting to warm up. So go to the places where you may feel, at peace. Take walks, do things. Just get out in the environment and possibly that can help your situation. So I know that helps me. That's just my advice, for you and everything. So let's go ahead and get into this week's episode. Now, this topic is something that I have spoken to you guys about before. But I wanted to do this topic again because I feel like even though I spoke about, it before, it's still very relevant towards my life, is still very relevant towards what I try to explain to people. And I want to talk about therapy this week. That's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how For me, I fought therapy, um, but eventually I had to face the real problem, all the challenges and things that I was experiencing prior to therapy, prior to getting on medication and all the rest of that. And yeah, because I feel like this conversation has to come up every season on this podcast is because there's a lot of people who don't go to therapy. There's a lot of people who felt the way that I felt, which I'm going to get into. And um, there's help out there, you know, but a lot of us just don't, feel like that it's not feeling comfortable or just going by in life, like, where I said last week, you're desensitized to the issues, but they keep coming up. So that's where I that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do for this episode. And I want to talk about just how I also discovered myself through therapy. I think sometimes well, not sometimes, but when you are in therapy, you start to learn about yourself. It's kind of like a mirror is being shown to you, because you're able to verbalize. Well, the type of therapy that I had, you're able to verbalize, and you're having someone repeat back to you um, what you said or asking questions about what you said. So I feel like, you learn a lot about yourself in therapy. So the type of therapy that I had was talk therapy. And that's the most, I guess you could say, common therapy out there, I guess. And that is where you talk to a trained therapist about your thoughts, about your feelings, whatever, is going on. It says that a lot of people who suffer from anxiety and depression, which is me, do talk therapy. But I feel like talk therapy is what I, stated earlier, the most common therapy. And I think even if people don't suffer from anxiety and depression, and they're just dealing with ordinary life issues or things that they just need to get out, that they don't feel like they can talk to their friends or family about, talk therapy is utilized. Okay. So I don't feel like it's limited to, okay, you have to be, diagnosed or you have this particular issue to actually seek out talk therapy. I've told you guys before, nothing has to be wrong for you to talk to somebody, especially if you don't have, like I said before, as I mentioned before, you don't have the people to have these conversations with. Specifically, the type of talk therapy is kind of like the starting point. It's like level one. But as you go on, there's different like subcategories of therapy. And the subcategory, I guess you can say, that I had was cognitive therapy. And that is where it teaches you to change your thoughts, which are likely negative thoughts, and the patterns of those negative thoughts. And it attempts to challenge you and replace that with positive thoughts and positive patterns, and basically tries to give you the tools to change your behavior. Now, do let you guys know, I did an episode, I believe, in season 1 where I talked about the different type of therapies out there. So I will be linking those down below because there's other options and things that's out there for people to learn about, people to see if maybe they can utilize this type of therapy. Maybe cognitive therapy is not working for them. So just let you know, I'll link that, down below. Because I think it's also just in general, it's important to know about the information that's out there. That was the reason why I did the episode in the get go, was because I was like, oh wow, there's different, options for people, and maybe people just don't know. So, getting back into therapy and getting back into what was going on with me, or yeah, what was going on with me, is that honestly, I had a feeling behind a therapist. Like prior to actually starting therapy, I was obviously resistant against it. Okay, I've talked about this several times in other episodes. It took me time to get to a place where I was comfortable talking to someone. A lot of times I would talk to my mom, my husband. But there was things that I couldn't necessarily share with them, that I didn't feel comfortable sharing with them, either because what I was going through was related to them, or it could be, or not, it could be. Part of it was that felt like they couldn't understand. Um, as well too. Like it was just that, it just too close to home, you know? So it got to a point that just with that and all the other issues that I was going through, that I needed space just to verbalize how I felt. But prior to having a therapist, I was just like, no, I was not interested. I did not want to sit down and talk to anybody about my life. In addition to that, I believe that talk therapy was, I don't know, like, I kind of thought it was nonsense in a way, that talking about your feelings was, how can I say? You just don't do that. You know what I mean? Like you just deal with your feelings, and you don't need to be sharing them with other people, and it's just not, it's not done, you know. That was what was in my mindset. Now, emotionally, what was going on is that, as I mentioned earlier, I was self desensitized from the issue. I was attempting to act like things were not bothering me, and that was part of the reason, as well too, that I wasn't willing to sit down with a therapist. Now, also, in addition to that, I thought that it just wasn't worth talking about. Like I mentioned that a little bit earlier as well too. I felt like this in my adulthood as well too. Like you just have to learn to manage your thoughts. You have to learn to manage your emotions, and that's just what it is, you know. Now, obviously what I learned is that I was completely wrong. I was, I was very ignorant to the issue at hand. Um, I was very also ignorant into what I was dealing with. Like for me, my emotions, I felt like everybody kind of dealt with what I was feeling, you know. Um, and I thought that this is just the way people move, like I said before. And part of me initially didn't really think anything was wrong, I guess you can say. So that played a part, as well too. I think I may have mentioned that in one of my earlier, bullet points. But after actually, what I realized is after being able to discuss and talk about what I was going through and start to, how could I say, have somebody else ask me questions about what was going on, um, I started to feel more like I'm not the only one dealing with what I'm dealing with. Like somebody else, I can take the pressure off of myself, and somebody else could be a part of this with me. You know, um, I think especially when it comes to my anxiety, specifically, not my depression, but with my anxiety, is that I often feel like I'm alone. That's often the message that pops up in my head. And being able to talk to somebody and feel like I'm not alone, it really opened up my mindset. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into Reflection by Abia. Feel free to check out the podcast Facebook and Instagram page. The links will be available in the show notes. Let's get back to the podcast. It really just helped me deal. You know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't dealing before. I was avoiding, you know, before. Through therapy, I learned that I didn't have to run. You know what I mean? Like, with my anxiety and with my feeling like I'm alone, I felt like I had to run. And in therapy, I didn't feel that way. Like I was able to, being able to talk about what I was going through, was like I had that hour to just sit still and let it all out. And it helped. It really did. It really did help me a lot. I think, not I think, I know more than I thought it would. Because, like I said before, I just was like, this is nonsense, and talking about myself is not going to solve anything. It's not going to help me manage or give me any perspective on fixing any of the stuff that I was going through. So, I want to get into kind of like what therapy opened up, okay, and kind of some of the things that I talked about that has allowed me to face the problem, as I got over talking to somebody and letting my feelings out. I got to a place where I felt comfortable. I got to a place where I was more vulnerable. I got to a place where I actually felt like my therapist was like a friend in a way. Like, it's kind of weird. I don't know if that is the MO of a therapist. Is that, but I felt like I was just talking to a person who was a friend. Um, Once a week, and it's just I paid this friend. I mean, I guess I'll get into the whole payment thing. For me, it wasn't a lot for therapy because I utilize my insurance. A lot of That's a whole nother subject, but just to let you know, um, if you have insurance, a lot of insurances out there cover therapists, or you'll pay like a copay. A lot of times your copay is not that much. I think at one point the maximum I was paying was $20 because I had transferred to different insurances. Like one point I was paying $20 when I was on one insurance, and then it went down to $5 when I transfer over to a new insurance. So it changes. The copay may change. That's not the point. That what I'm trying to get to. What I'm trying to get to is that if you are seeking out a therapist, a lot of times you can contact your insurance company, and they will be able to assist you with facilities who have therapists who will be able to help you with what you're going through. I just want to say that is an option 'cause I know a lot of people pay out of pocket, and it's not necessary, with the way the world is navigating to these days, and how I don't want to say people are pushing therapy, but I guess, that's what I'm trying to say is that is more available to you. Assurances are starting to see that they need to advocate for this because people are losing it out here. We hear so much of people just not getting the help that they need. So just want to throw that out there. I know I kind of went on a rant with that. But let's go back into what therapy opened up for me, and what I had to face was a problem. Now, I'm just giving you highlighting a couple of bullet points. Obviously to me, I know that it was more than this, but I did want to, do that and share some things with you guys about. Okay. So, um, I have feelings of abandonment, and those feelings of abandonment, as I was talking to my therapist, what I realized is that it played a big issue in my relationship with my husband. I felt like, how can I say this? I felt like I initially didn't have security, and it's not anything he did. It's nothing he did. This is all me. This is all my stuff of trauma, and I it was a trust factor. It was a let him in factor, being vulnerable. Um, yeah, that being abandoned, you know, and dealing with that. It was like, okay, this person could possibly be there one moment and be gone the next, or not be there at all. So that played a heavy thing and was a major problem for me. And I've talked about this before. This is not nothing new. Um, but I wanted to discuss that today. So, the next one I want to talk about is it allowed me to face how I was minimizing the things that happened in my life, uh, and how I was minimizing it to the point I was thinking that it wasn't affecting me, but I realized it was affecting me, even though in my head I thought I was minimizing the issue. Like, I will talk to my therapist about certain things that I have experienced, and he would say, "Wow." He wouldn't necessarily say "Wow." He would say, "Do you think that was heavy? Like, do you think that was normal?" And then I would step back and I'd be like, "Wow, no, that's not normal. What took place was not normal, but it was normal to me." So it was like me thinking that it was okay, but to somebody else, it was not normal because they've been trained to know that it was not normal. You know what I mean? So it allowed me to accept in my head that this was a problem, and this problem may be linked to so many other things that was going on with me. I had to learn that. I had to face that. So one of the next things that I had to face was I was often driven by self-worth and external validation. I talked about this before. Um, Me feeling like I had to be the solver, and me feeling like if I'm able to accomplish and do all the things that I saw thought that needed to be done, that will mean I'm good. Or people will feel like, outsiders will feel like, oh, okay, she took care of X, Y, and Z, and therefore it's nothing that they need to worry about. It is nothing that I need to worry about because I know that it's getting done. So my being driven to just be out there and doing all the stuff, it played a very major part. It's like I felt like, again, this ties into the abandonment issue of I cannot rely on anybody but myself. I'll be honest, that's what it was. Though that is what it is, or was. Because we're working on it. We're working on that growth. But I had to face the problem. I had to face what it really was. Because again, I was avoiding the issue and not seeing it for what it really was. So as I, said, I ignored a lot. I dismissed a lot. I made things seem like it wasn't a big deal, but it was a big deal. I had a lot of issues that I needed to face. I had a lot of personal trauma that I needed to face, you know, um, because again, as I said, it was seeping into my adulthood, and it I was going to be losing on a lot of things in my adulthood if I didn't face these things. It's just the honest truth. And therapy helped me with that. Therapy helped me with figuring it out. I started to be, therapy helped me be less resistant towards minimizing stuff. It therapy stopped me from being stunted. Therapy gave me the room to find ways to grow, find ways to be better. And I I wish honestly that I sought out a therapist earlier on. I honestly wish that therapy was something that I had young, especially with a lot of the things that I that took place. I think that it would have probably better helped me as an adult. But back then, therapy was not really discussed. It was there, but it wasn't discussed. I don't know. I just wish that that was a place, an option, but we're getting what we need now. So, in closing, what I kind of just want to leave you guys off with is I learned to face the hard stuff. Um, I stopped running. I started to see what options, were out there. I allowed myself to break free from feeling like my arms were tied behind my back. Because that also was one of the emotions that I felt, was that I I was selfless. Like, is that the right word? I don't know if selfless is the right word, but I felt like I couldn't control that. My hands were just tied behind my back. So I started as an adult, I started to, and through therapy, reassure myself and know that I'm not, how can I say, I don't want to say I'm not alone. I don't feel like that's the right word, but I feel like I have, I don't know. I can't find the right word right now, but it's like I'm not dependent, not necessarily dependent. I feel like I get in my words a little bit tongue tied, but I just don't feel like I'm burdened, I guess you could say. That would be the right word. Hopefully. It's not the right word, but it's as close as I could get in my head right now. So let me move on. Um, I also started to just find freedom in being able to breathe and being able to release, in therapy and just in my life, and being able to release with my relationships and talk about the things that I avoided, and letting people know that this was something that affected me. And it, it helped, that conversations helped me, because a lot of things that I went through, I never talked about. No, not, I said a lot of things. Mo All the things. you know, I never, maybe I talked about it, but not into the full context of how it affected me. So that being able to release, helped. So what I really hope in this episode is, I want you guys to first just understand that you're not alone in this space. Um, I think therapy is very healing. It's a very good healing tool. And I understand the hesitation. I get it. But if you want to find ways to help you get on the other side of that, of the feelings that you're going through, maybe a therapist can help with that. Okay. So I think that we deserve to be happy. I don't think that we were created to be depressed and just moving in life like, whatever. I think that we have this one life, you know what I'm saying? And we should be happy. So that's just my take on that. But guys, we are at the end of this week's episode. I truly hope that me going over this conversation again, and hopefully I delve more into it, because like I said, I spoke about this before. I don't remember actually what I said before. But I hope that me rehashing this again helps you in your whatever's going on with you. So stay blessed out there in those streets. Make sure that you treat others kindly out there in those streets. And God willing, I will talk to you guys in the next podcast episode. Thank you for listening to Reflection by Abia. Let me know in the comments section what you thought about today's episode and share the podcast with your friends and family. The link will be available in the show notes.